Hello, Bobby Torres of Frightbox recording here, critiquing subscriber mixes episode 11. So before we begin, I just want to ask you this. Are you into producing? Are you into producing metal? And more specifically, are you into producing metal guitars? If so, you can have direct access to my guitar production workshop for absolutely free. In this workshop, I talk about dialing in a guitar tone from scratch, editing your guitars for a professional result, and mixing your guitars for that nice, clear, super polished, heavy guitar tone that you hear on your favorite records. Again, you could have instant access to this workshop for absolutely free. There's a link below in this video's description. So without any further ado, let's dig into this group of mixes submitted by my loyal email subscribers. Okay, our first mix here comes from Mr. Asco. Let's see what we got. Okay, well, Asco, I really like what I'm hearing. The guitar parts themselves sound great. I like the tone of your rhythm guitars. Now, you mentioned in your email that you're having issues getting all of these guitar layers to blend properly without them stepping on each other's toes. What you're describing is an extremely common problem that we all face as heavy production mixing engineers. And the answer is a lot more straightforward than you'd think. Now, the way I look at it and the way that I approach it is I keep my rhythm guitars variable as far as their level is concerned. And what I mean by this is I find the level where they sound great when they're by themselves without any lead guitars. And then when other elements come in, like leads, overdubs, maybe even certain vocal parts and synth layers, what I do is I will drop the level of my rhythm guitars using automation to make room for these extra elements. Because here's the thing, you can't keep everything super loud in your mix. It's gonna become very busy and very distracting to listen to. And I can tell by listening to your mix that that might be an issue where you have everything just super loud and your rhythm guitars, to me, sound like they're all pretty much sitting at the same level. So you're definitely gonna wanna use automation to vary the level of your rhythm guitars to make room for these additional layers. So give this a shot and let me know how it works out for you. And thank you for your submission. Okay, and our next mix here comes from Mr. Yangthung Bemo. Dude, if I'm butchering the pronunciation of your name, I apologize. So let's hear what his mix is all about here. Let's check it out. All right, dude, well, I really like what I'm hearing. Excellent playing. The editing sounds nice and tight. Just overall, it's just a really well-balanced production. Now, you mentioned it in your email that you're having issues, or at least you want your production to sound more polished overall. And I'm gonna be honest with you, from my perspective, it already sounds pretty polished. It sounds very well produced. Now, if you're talking about polished in terms of frequency response wise, that could be a buildup of lower mids, but to me, again, this is just my opinion, the lower mids in this mix sound well balanced and your mix sounds very warm. The only note that I could even come up with is that the snare is poking through a whole lot. This is personal taste. A lot of times when a snare pokes through in such a clear manner like that, it can give off the effect that it's a sample or a programmed drums. So you might want to take your snare down a notch or clip it so there's less transient. But overall, I would say your mix is killer, and I wouldn't worry about the whole polish thing, because to me, it sounds like you're well on your way to producing 100% professional results. As a matter of fact, to me, this does sound fully professional. So give that a shot with your snare drum and keep me posted on your future productions. All right, mix number 3 comes from Mr. Anders. Okay, dude, well, I love what I'm hearing. The song sounds cool, really cool guitar tone, great playing, nice solid drum sound. My only note here would be that your vocals are just way too loud. You could take your vocals bring them down by a dB or two, and I feel like they would sit in the mix in a much more natural way, and you'd still be able to hear everything nice and clear. Again, this is my own personal preference and my own personal taste. Some people like vocals to be really, really loud, but for this genre of music where you have kind of like that atmospheric screaming vocal, I really feel that it doesn't have to be super loud like that, because all it's going to do is conflict with your riffs and distract the listener from the riffage going on in the guitars. So Anders, I hope that helps, and good luck on your future mixes. Okay, and our next mix here comes from Mr. Calvin, who happens to be a member of the Frightbox Mix Crypt. Let's see what he has. Okay, well, Calvin, I really like what I hear. It's cool to hear something a little different. This sort of has somewhat of an indie rock vibe in some of those sections earlier in the song. I love the guitar tone. I love the drum sound, a nice warm kick drum. I can hear the bass in a nice clear manner. My only note here would be that it seems like you have a lot of stereo imaging happening on the main vocal track, specifically within the chorus. Whether you doubled it and panned it, or you just have some wide, crazy effect on the vocals, I feel like you can maybe take that down a notch just so the chorus isn't as jarring and the listener could focus on the lead vocal in the chorus without being distracted by the fancy effects that you have going on. And one thing you could try is keeping that effect and keeping it only on maybe a vocal double, so it's lower in the background, with your lead vocal, your main lead vocal track, staying up in the center. This is something I do a lot to widen the sound of the chorus to make it bigger, but without it being distracting to the listener, because their ear is drawn to the center vocal, and it just sounds like a nice big vocal sound without it sounding like a deliberate effect. And this is my only piece of advice here. Other than that, I think the mix is killer. So give this a shot and let me know how that works out on your next mix. All right, and our next mix here comes from Mr. Denali. Okay, well, Denali, I really like what I'm hearing. It kind of reminds me of old Roots era Sepultura / maybe the second Korn record, slightly just modernized, way tighter, and just way more crisp sounding. So I really like what I'm hearing, dig the song, cool vocals, great guitar tone. To be honest with you, man, I really wouldn't change much about this. The only thing, and this is only a nitpick, and this is only if I have to come up with something to tell you to improve, is that the snare is poking through just a little too much, at least in my opinion, and it makes it sound kind of like a drum sample. I would just clip my snare a little more heavily, or just bring it down maybe a dB.5 to 2 dB in the mix, because it's already cutting through in such a clear manner that I don't think it has to be overly loud. But that's just my own opinion. It's totally a matter of taste. But other than that, man, I really like what I'm hearing. I really like the band. So if you can, just email me what band this is. I'd like to hear more work from them. Sounds awesome. All right, our final mix here comes from Denny. Let's see what we got. Okay, well, Denny, I like what I'm hearing. It's sounding super thick, super heavy. Now, the only note here is that it does sound to me a little muddy sounding, but I don't think it really has anything too much to do with EQ or anything like that. I noticed that your master is heavily clipped and really loud, and it's actually clipping within my DAW here. To be honest with you, man, you don't have to master your mixes that loud these days. So I'd highly recommend just backing off the limiter just slightly, and that'll really open up the sound of your mix, because I feel like this mix will greatly benefit from that. All of the individual tones sound awesome, cool vocal sound, the drums sound killer, but again, it's just so heavily clipped that some of the distortion I feel is muddying up the mix in general. So back off the limiter just slightly and let me know how that works out for you, and thank you for submitting such a killer mix. So I'd just like to shout out and thank everyone for submitting this excellent group of mixes. Now, if you sent me your mix and I haven't gotten to it yet, just please be patient. It's taken me a while to get through the amount that I've been sent. But if you've sent me something, I will definitely get to it within one of these videos in this series. If you found this video helpful, like, comment, subscribe, and share. And do not forget to click the little bell icon so you can be notified every time I upload our weekly videos on all things metal and rock production. If you're interested in some Frightbox swag, I've got t-shirts, mugs, and other cool stuff on the way. There's a link below to the Frightbox merch store in this video's description. And again, if you want to learn more about producing professional level metal guitars, there's a link to my free guitar production workshop below in this video's description. Just click the link and have instant access and learn more about how to produce killer sounding guitar tracks. And until next time, happy mixing.